Hello again, MMA True Believers. I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and I am joined by one of the fastest rising fighters in the UFC's bantamweight division. In February, he moved his record to an impressive 15-1 after defeating Rani Yahya, and now will step back into the cage at UFC Fight Night 155 in Sacramento against one of the true legends of the sport, and Urijah Faber. That man is Ricky Simon. Ricky, thank you for taking some time out for a little conversation because from what I've heard, you're about to get married in a couple days. So I know you are a very busy man. Congratulations on that.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks, but luckily my girl's been taking care of everything, so all I have to do is worry about one thing.
Very nice.
Beating up Urijah Faber July 13th.
Very nice. Very lucky man, and having a very a good woman on your side, and to be able to face Urijah Faber very soon. Now, bunch of questions for you. First one is, before we get to Faber, I want to go back to the Rani Yahya fight. That was a pivotal fight for you in your career. You have had some notable wins, but Yahya could be viewed as sort of like what some people may call like a gatekeeper guy, and that he has been in the company for 8 years, not an easy feat to accomplish. So a win over someone like him establishes you are a guy that's here to stay in the UFC. Going into that fight, did you view it as one of the most important fights of your career so far?
Of course, yeah. It's Rani Yahya. He's been around forever. He was ranked top 15 in the world. So on paper, that was the biggest fight of my life. And I knew if I went in and had a good performance, I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay, and I wanted to show that. So we got it done.
A lot of great things in the fight. Obviously, observers of the sport knew you had legitimate talent going into the fight anyway, but does a win like that against an established name like him, you just mentioned he was top 15 at the time, does that put any even personal doubts, maybe stuff that you didn't say publicly in terms of, that you are, to rest in that it did confirm to you that you are not only just a legitimate UFC level fighter, but you are a fighter that has everything necessary to be a champion now in the UFC. Did that win give you further confirmation of how good you really are?
I mean, yeah, it definitely validated it. But I've been a firm believer that I've belonged in the UFC, and I'm one of the top bantamweights in the world for a long time. If you look at my track record, who I've beaten in the last year, let alone year and a half. So, I feel like I'm one of the best bantamweights in the world, and I'll just keep proving it.
Your first impressions of this fight coming up, I wanted to ask you first, before that, when you heard rumors about the possibility that Urijah Faber may be coming back out of retirement, 40 years old, almost 3 years removed from the sport, what were your thoughts about that possibility when the news started getting out there?
Yeah, so, I saw ESPN kind of like throwing it out there that Urijah, and I heard some rumblings that Urijah wanted to come back, so I kind of threw my name in the hat. But I'm sure he could have, he could have waited for a bigger name or something like that. So I'm definitely excited and happy that he chose to come back against a tough fight against a rising prospect. He's a Hall of Famer, and it's a great opportunity to raise my stock.
Now, when you like you said, you threw your name in the hat. I mean, they call certain people out. Things don't get, made in the UFC. I know, the logistics of UFC booking and matchmaking can be pretty difficult. When they came to you and said, look, we are going to give you this fight. He wants to fight you. Were you a little surprised by it at all? Or were you just excited and glad that finally a call out came through and you actually got what you wanted?
I was excited. I was surprised. Urijah wanted to come back and take this fight. Like I said, the UFC knows that I'll take any fight. I'm getting married, like you said, this week. I had to cancel my honeymoon, but didn't bat an eye. It doesn't matter to me. They know this is what I live for, and I'm gonna say yes anytime they call.
Now, growing up, or just not even necessarily growing your journey to the sport to get into MMA, prepare yourself to be a mixed martial arts. Did you idolize a guy like Urijah Faber at all? He top star in 2 divisions, in the beginning days, featherweight, or at the very least admire him as an up and coming fighter on your way to the sport?
He was never one of the fighters that I idolized. I had a couple fighters like Randy Couture and like even Diego Sanchez when I was younger. So he was never someone I looked at like when I was younger. I was like, I want to be like Urijah. But I mean, I definitely did admire him, coming up as an amateur, I definitely did copy some of his moves, and I would never miss a Urijah fight, definitely. But so he was definitely a trailblazer for our weight class. But it's a new era, and I'm here to take over.
Now, do you feel like, because you mentioned, you threw your name out there, but you feel like Faber made a bad decision to come back against a guy 14 years younger on an absolute tear right now? Should he have maybe returned and faced someone closer to his age, sort of like what we saw with Clay Guida and BJ Penn recently? Do you think he's going to find out in this fight it was probably a bad decision, and maybe he's overlooking you and he's going to bite off way more than he can chew?
No, I think he knows it's going to be a tough fight, and he knows it's going to be an exciting fight, and I think he's up for the challenge. I don't think he's looking for an easy fight. I don't think he's ever done something like that. So I think he wants to prove that he still has it, and coming back and beating a hungry young prospect will, you have Cejudo already calling out his name. So with a win over me, who knows, he could be next. You never know how this works. So I think he's still a firm believer in his skills, and it's going to be an exciting fight.
A win over a ranked opponent or someone similar to where you are, right on that bubble, so to speak, could definitely get you into the top 15. Now, with him being at his age, 3 years away, do you think that'll affect it, or is your thinking calling him not only one to just fight a legendary fighter, but in the way it seems like with the UFC's matchmaking, they really do seem to not matchmaking, but rankings, they do seem to favor the names. Like, say, for example, Shane Burgos got into the rankings by being Cub Swanson despite being over 3 losses. Recently, Calvin Kattar got further now into the top 10 by beating Ricardo Lamas, who's kind of on the comeback in his career. Did you maybe strategically know, not only is that a good win, but shit, Urijah Faber, beat a win on him, this gets me into the top 15.
I'm not too concerned with like the ranking. The layout of the rankings is so weird.
Yeah.
I was ranked 14 at one time, then 15, and then I got out of the top 15. So I've been there already. So you just never, there's activity, you're gonna get bumped in or out. I don't feel like there's any, I don't know what the blueprint is for the rankings, but I do feel Urijah was ranked. He's been ranked top 10 like basically his entire career. I think he was ranked 7th in his last fight. So with a win over him, it could definitely, you never know, it could definitely push me back in the rankings, but it's at least going to give me a top 10 opponent after that, because I beat a top 15. I'll beat a Hall of Famer. Give me a top 10 after that.
How important are the rankings? So, because when I talked to Calvin Kattar, he was already moving to the top 10, but he even said that rankings aren't as important to him as maybe fans and analysts and media, because it's very subjective, and that to him the only time it really is going to matter is when he's getting to the top 5 and getting a title shot. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel that the rankings for you, at least right now, aren't a big deal? Yeah, it's nice, it helps you with your value and things like that, and sponsors, but is rankings for at least now not too big of a deal for you?
It's a big deal just because of what you said, the sponsors. The sponsor, it looks good. It looks good with that number next to your name.
Right.
All right. So with being a ranked fighter, I feel like you get more opportunities. So it does make a difference, but just the way that I don't know. It just seems weird how they do the rankings. Yeah. So it's annoying. But I do feel like it's important at the end of the day.
What do you think? Because I asked him the same thing. Like, what would you suggest to reliable? So, okay, if I do this, I will get to where I need to be. Should it mainly be about, if you beat one ranked guy, that should be the main focus? Because, like I said, they seem to focus on names more than that. Like, what would you suggest to make the rankings more, better than you feel, and a lot of fighters seem to feel they are?
That's a good question. I'm over here criticizing, but I don't have answers for that either. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, yeah. There's so many fighters. There's so much activity. You got guys jumping, guys who aren't ranked fighting guys who are ranked all the time. So you never. I don't know. That's a good question, but I don't have the answer for it.
Now back to the Faber fight. Faber was not a fighter who was like strongly diminished when he retired, like some fighters often are as they get along, long in the tooth, so to speak, in their career. He was still pretty good. He only lost to fighters that were also very good, but just happened to be younger. Obviously, at 40, we don't expect to see prime Faber, but yet, do you need to sort of prepare for prime Faber so you don't go out there and underestimate him, so you don't go out there with any surprises? Are you in camp thinking, I'm going to fight WEC Urijah Faber, and that's what I'm preparing for?
What I'm preparing for. I'm preparing for the best. So I'm not gonna go out there thinking like he's gonna be slower or weaker. He's still Uriah Faber, but at the same time, I mean, I can judge him off his last performance, and he kind of did look old against an old Brad Pickett himself. So I'm not a Brad Pickett. I'm a young 26 Ricky Simone, and I've been on a tear, and I feel so strong, and I'm feeling gaining confidence after each fight. So I've just been doing all I know how to do, which is my entire life just working my ass off, and it's been paying off, and it's going to keep paying off.
One of Faber's greatest quality, speed, was always amazing. That is, of course, a quality that often goes when a guy gets older, an athlete gets older. With that in mind, do you expect maybe more of a grapple-heavy attack from Faber going into this fight at all? Is that something that your camp has talked about? Or, like you said, you're going to expect the uncanny speed and just see what happens in there after the fact?
Yeah, he's always been. I feel like I'm faster than Faber in his prime. So I'm definitely gonna be faster than Faber at 41. But I do think after he sees the speed and the strength, he's gonna try to grapple me up a little bit. But I've been grappling my entire life, so I just saw in my last fight. I know how to defend a shot. And Uriah kind of has a similar shot to Ronnie with that single leg, but definitely better wrestling, definitely a lot better wrestling, better scrambles. But I live for the scramble. I love it. So I know it's going to be a tough fight, but I know it's going to be exciting. I can't let Uriah Faber come back for a boring fight. We're gonna have some fun in there. It's going to be fun.
Now we've talked about it, legend, big name, and everything like that. But this fight is going to be in Sacramento, in his hometown. When California Love hits, he's in Sacramento, his hometown. The crowd's probably going buck effing wild for him. Have you mentally prepared for that and done some visualization so that the moment doesn't get surreal, so it doesn't kind of throw you off at all, or are you expecting kind of, hey, it's gonna be surreal, but I'm gonna enjoy it, and then I'm still gonna go whip his ass after that happens?
Visualization. He fought Brad Pickett in Sacramento, so I already have Bruce Buffer announcing Uriah Faber in Sacramento. I could hear the crowd, and I just closed my eyes and I'm just soaking it all up. I already visualized. I've already heard the words. I've already heard his name. I've already heard in Sacramento. I've heard the fans. I've heard it a bunch already. Yeah. I'm ready.
Now let's.
I can't believe I have another right under 2.5 weeks. So.
Well, let's continue that visualization. Let's first the second round. What do you visualize hearing the announcer say at the end of that fight?
I'm getting my hand raised. That's it. I don't know if it's gonna be. I know we're gonna be hitting each other hard. I know I'm gonna land some damage. I do see a finish coming, but I know it's gonna be a tough fight. But no matter how it ends, it's ending with my hand getting raised.